NDP has mortgaged their Jack Layton building need for $12 million. They needed to fill up their election war chest. That's kind of the bad news. The good news just came out this afternoon. There was a Main Street poll done on the riding of Burnaby South where Jagmeet Singh is running for the leader. And I think we have a board that shows the findings. Jagmeet Singh is ahead by 12 points, over the Liberal, and the Conservative clearly being hit by Maxime Bernier from the People's Party of Canada. What do you make of that, Bob?
Well, I've always felt that he had a good chance of winning this by-election. He hasn't performed very well as a leader, but the party is putting everything they possibly can into helping him win this. They know that he needs to win this by-election. He needs to get in the House of Commons. So my feeling is that he's probably going to win. I don't know by how much. So I'm not surprised by that. But you make a good point. You can see that their Conservatives are losing about 8 to 9% because of Bernier's People's Party, and that is not a good sign for Andrew Scheer and the Conservatives if you take that across some particular ridings across the country. That could really mean that the difference between a win or a loss.
I know.
Given that candidate that Bernier elected, who'd already made headlines, as a fairly controversial personality. So Bob's right on that respect. It's interesting because until we knew who was in the race, Jagmeet Singh was running in most other polls third to nobody.
Yeah.
But I think Bob's right, and I do think that Canadians are perhaps willing to give him a chance in that riding at least. We'll see. It's hard to, those polls are usually fairly small sample sizes and whatnot. But I don't think that means that he's upped his game that much. I think he's had some missteps in the past week. He seems to, right? And he's
that stuff with Evan Solomon on Question Period. I mean, he didn't know what the Chinese ambassador had said about white supremacy. I think you said it. That's almost immediate disqualification.
But so he has to up his game, right? He really has to show that he is ready for the main stage to go up. Imagine if we were in the middle of an election campaign and that's where he was on the main issues of the day, like he'd be slaughtered. So he's got a long road to go still.
Tell me what you think about them having to sell this building. And I know some...
They're not selling, right? They're
mortgaging it.
Yeah.
But some NDP people are sort of gnashing and saying this is the mortgaging of Jack Layton's legacy, because there was a time where the NDP had a reasonably good fundraising machine and was able to afford to buy this building. How big a sign is that there's problems?
Well, clearly it is. I mean, they're running a deficit, and they need money for an election campaign, which they do not have. And it's hard to go to the bank and say, I need, $10 million for an election campaign when you're not bringing in very little money in. So the banks don't do that, Don. What have you got to put up as collateral? Well, all we have is the Jack Layton building. So Jack Layton building is going up as collateral.
It's very symbolic. Look, the last time they were in an election year in 2015 with Mulcair, remember, he was the then official leader of the opposition. Trudeau was the third party. And they raised something like $18 million that year. Now they're in the red and struggling to put a war chest together.
And money
There's no sense sugarcoating it. They really have a lot of work ahead.
And if you don't have any money, you cannot run a national campaign. Right. And that is...
Advertising, I mean, it's a fortune to advertise, so...
I think it's interesting, just to show you, linking back to the by-election that's coming on, they canceled their caucus retreat so they could all rush out there and help Singh in that riding. So that tells you that everything's being thrown into that race.
The fire trucks are all going in one direction.
Well, and in recent years, let's face it, I mean, they haven't been holding caucus retreats outside of Ottawa. They've been all coming into Ottawa where they have, accommodations and whatnot, and having them here.